We'll continue the discussion of the mechanisms of innate immunity. Now, the second mechanism or the second barrier called the physiological barrier. In the first one, we have seen the anatomical barrier in which the skin and mucous membrane plays the physical destruction or physical obstruction for the entry of foreign substance to the host body. Now we will see the physiological reactions or the physiological condition of the body and how these physiological response is acting as a defensive strategy for the body, for the host body. And here we will particularly see certain factors like temperature, pH, and the smaller soluble and cell associated molecules secreted in the body, which are involved in immune response. The first one is about temperature. As already we have seen when we talk about the different types of immunity, uh, body temperature is an important factor because the most of the pathogens will survive when they are active at a specific temperature, and most of the human pathogens are mesophiles in nature, and that's why they attack the human body. And at the same time, not all animals are having this kind of mesophilic temperature. Certain animals will have a higher range of temperature or a lower range of temperature for their growth. So in that situation, these pathogens, these human pathogen cannot attack them, and similarly vice versa. That means those viruses or bacteria which attack a particular organism with a body temperature higher than that of human may not infect human. Right. This is because this is the temperature is not the one which is favored. Moreover, we can also include fever as a defensive strategy of the body, because fever is also a rise in body temperature, and usually this occurs as a defensive strategy by the body, because when an infection is established, there will be certain signals which are communicated to the hypothalamus of the brain, and where actually the body temperature is regulated. There is a thermoregulatory system in the hypothalamus, and as a result there is a rise in temperature. Then what happens if there is a rise in body temperature? Right. So we'll have a little more discussion on fever. Fever, it usually develops when there is a local response, and which is not sufficient for the defense and need an activation of the entire system. In that situation, usually the body will go for a development of a fever. Right, like when there is a foreign substance coming, and the local resistance strategies are working but not proper enough, and the body understands that the entire system has to be activated. There is an alarm signal needed, and in that situation the body temperature rises. Right, and for that the immune system will secrete certain substances like interleukin 1, and these molecules will communicate with the brain or in the hypothalamus, and that trigger body temperature rise. And what will happen, what changes are actually happening? The most important listed changes when you have a fever is the bacterial growth will be inhibited. That's already we have seen that it's not the favored temperature. The second thing is that will be this heightened temperature will stimulate phagocytosis. That's one of the primary response of the body to eliminate foreign substances. And the third one, the repair strategies or the repair mechanisms of the body will be much activated and enhanced, so that any injury, any damage caused by the pathogen which entered the body will be easily repaired. Right, because the system is in the activated stage. And usually the fourth one is that there is a sequestration of iron. Right, that means liver and spleen cells will begin to store more iron molecules from the blood. That means ions will be hidden, will be taken out of the blood, so that the microorganism is not available with iron. If iron is not available, the microbial growth is also it's not easy to grow. Right, this is what we call the iron sequestration, and iron sequestration will prevent microbial growth. The second thing is the body pH. Right, the pH, especially the body fluid, various body fluids are there with different pH. You can find a lot of examples. Like the sebum already we have seen. The sebum has a acidic pH. Then the gastric secretions, there is very extreme acidic pH, and also there is extreme alkaline pH in the intestine. Then urine has an acidic pH. The vaginal secretions has acidic pH. So all these various body secretions are maintained at a low pH, so that all these internal surfaces and the mucous membranes and all are protected. Right. So that's about the pH. Then about the small molecules or the substances which are secreted by various cells and other systems of the body will act a major role in the immune defense, innate immune defense. The first and most important thing we have to discuss is about complement proteins, and we will have a detailed discussion about complement system later, and here I'm giving you a brief outline only. The complement proteins are very small soluble proteins present in blood in the inactive stage, and they undergo activation in response to an antigen, right? And they leads to means they activate, and this activation leads to destruction of the foreign substance. Not only this destruction of the foreign substance, but there will be activation of rest of the immune mechanisms like adaptive or innate immune responses. So these are very small proteins present in blood which activate or which complement the activities of other immune response, right? Then see, usually when you have an infection, there will be a heightened activation. That means when you have an infection, or if you want to check whether you have an infection or not, it's easy to check whether your C proteins are activated. That means your complement proteins are activated or not. If your complement proteins are activated, which indicates you have an infection, right? This is one of the normal testing strategy. That means there will be a test called CRP test, complement CRP protein. That means complement reactive proteins, whether it's activated or not. When you have a higher level of CRP, which means that you have a recent infection, right? Then the second molecules usually involved in innate defense are interferons. These are small molecules. These are peptides produced especially by a cell which is infected by a virus. So these interferons are actually certain signaling like molecules. These interferons will communicate with the nearby cells, and they communicate the nearby cells about this viral infection and enhance their antiviral activities, right? Especially interferon gamma is involved in it, right? The another molecule is lactoferrin, which is present in the breast milk, and this lactoferrin is an iron binding protein present in large quantities in colostrum especially, right? So lactoferrin is an antimicrobial protein present in breast milk. Then another protein present in milk is lactoperoxidase, which is also antimicrobial in nature. Then one of the popular antimicrobial substance or an enzyme is lysozyme. These are present in various body secretions like tears, saliva, and milk. And this is a very dangerous enzyme that can easily attack the bacterial system. That means the peptidoglycan component of the bacterial cell walls are destroyed by the activity of the lysozyme, and ultimately this leads to cell death. So these lysozymes are present usually in an internal organelle called a lysosome. You may be familiar with that. And usually cells like phagocytic cells are having the deposition of this one, or they are much rich with lysosome like substances, and these lysosomes are otherwise also called the zooidal bag because of the presence of these lysozyme enzymes, right? So lysozyme is an important antimicrobial agent secreted by the body. Now about beta lysins, these are the certain amino acids usually secreted by the platelets present in blood, Right, they show certain antimicrobial activity, especially against gram-positive bacteria. Then leukin secreted by leukocytes are antimicrobial. Then amylase enzyme usually present in the mouth are having antimicrobial activity. And moreover, all the digestive enzymes are having antimicrobial activity, and hence we are protected from all those microorganisms which are coming through the foodstuff or the water we are ingesting. Right, so this kind of protection is very important for the body in order to protect from the normally or the day-to-day exposure of microorganisms. Okay, so that's all for the second one, the physiological barrier. We have seen about the role of temperature, the pH, the various smaller molecules associated with innate defense. Right. So in the next session, we will continue with phagocytosis and inflammation. Thank you for listening.